Hi, my name is Dan Sitzman. I'm a science instructional coach for the Omaha Public Schools with a background in classroom teaching in middle school and high school. So I've been involved for nearly 30 years with the Nebraska Association of Teachers of Science and the Nebraska Academy of Sciences. I attended SciComm for the first time 2 years ago and found the presentations and conversations align with the skills that are expected of K-12 students as part of the 2017 state standards called the Nebraska College and Career Ready Standards for Science. These standards are Nebraska's approach to engage all K-12 learners in an environment of thinking, sense-making, and collaboration. These state standards are based on the National Research Council's K-12 framework for science education, with science content interwoven with cross-cutting concepts in science and engineering practices. These three components make up the three dimensions of the science education. You have the disciplinary core ideas, which is the content, the cross-cutting concepts, which include patterns, cause and effect, scale, proportion, and quantity, all ideas that are important across all science disciplines. And then third, the science and engineering practices, such as asking questions, developing models, analyzing data, constructing explanations, and communicating information. None of these happen in isolation, thus they're shown as interwoven with each other. Implementation requires a shift for teachers in planning and instruction, as well as mental shifts for students and their expectations of how learning is done. Perhaps the most challenging shift in practice is engaging all students in academic talk, whether in a physical classroom setting or by remote learning. Early in my career, my classroom was frequented by my questions when I wanted students to repeat back the answer I wanted to hear. When I finished talking, I asked, "Does anybody have any questions?" Usually didn't get many questions. And when a student couldn't answer correctly on a test, I would think to myself, gosh, I went over that with them. Well, research shows that teachers talk up to 80% of class time. Early in my career as an educator, I recognized the need to engage students. So, in retrospect, I kept them busy and structured ways for them to rely on each other to complete work. But, as I look back now, they were doing things to check off a list, not truly making sense of the content. And recent studies show that many classrooms have students studying and recounting factual information and definitions and reinforced through hands-on activities that may not be linked to advancing students' conceptual ideas and practices. So, as practitioners with this transition to standards that weave together the three dimensions of science, we recognize that our culture can stress students who are concerned about looking silly or worse if they ask a question or respond with the wrong answer. We also know through research that conceptual change does not occur without some sort of sense making. So, in which learners actively engage with the natural and design world, wonders about it, develops, tests, and refines ideas with peers and a teacher. The influential 2000 National Research Council book, How People Learn, states, no matter the strategies and techniques that a teacher employs, students need to feel that the classroom is safe and encouraging. It's an idea that I recognized early in my teaching career as I would start the school year inviting students to participate in team building exercises from my experiences as a camp counselor. Purposeful team building activities can build an environment of positive support for students. But it's not just the doing of the activity. Framing the activity at the start, and most importantly, providing time for individual and small group reflection and whole group debrief, while also practicing communication skills, connects the activity with the skills and practices necessary for academic talk. And with our situation of remote learning in the K-12 setting, there are some ways that we can continue to provide students with a way to build community and practice listening to each other. And while this is a preliminary list, there is still much to add to it. But as I said, framing the purpose of the activity is important, whether it's a team building activity in person or remotely, or if it's trying to make sense of the coursework. So the question is, where do we start with this? If I Google I get hundreds of millions of options. And by inserting the word science in the student talk in the science classroom, it gets it down to about 250 million. So I want to highlight some of the best supports that are free or low cost to educators to use and implement. And we'll have this list at the end of the presentation. First, some free resources. The first of these is the one-page checklist for teachers to refer to while scripting a planned discussion, or even to refer to in real time during a classroom or synchronous discussion, or to nudge students in an asynchronous discussion thread. This comes from Talk Science. It is out of Turk and Tufts University. Additional teacher supports are available in a document and video series to demonstrate classroom use. The STEM teaching tools are another fantastic free resource for science educators about many aspects of three-dimensional teaching. Each teaching tool is only a 1 or 2-page document with ideas to implement, reflection questions, and links to research and resources. So here's a set of cards that teachers can refer to prompt students to continue to build interdependence among students, to strengthen their science practices while grappling with the content. It's also helpful for students in a physical setting or to put up on a screen in a remote setting to have cards or table tents available for small groups to start how to start their responses to practice these skills. So the STEM teaching tools provide these in the links that I have to their documents. And then a third tool from STEM teaching tools is this flowchart to assist teachers in determining some structures based on the intended purpose of the activity and where students are in the unit. Before I conclude, I want to highlight 2 books you could purchase that have greatly influenced and pushed my thinking about the role of classroom support for students to share their thinking. The National Science Teaching Association published this book that I cited earlier in this presentation, and the focus of a 2020 NSTA book study with excellent examples of what each practice looks like and does not look like in the classroom. And then this book, the focus of the Nebraska Association of Teachers of Science book study in 2018, published in partnership between the National Science Teaching Association and the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. It's a deep dive into strategies and structures for teachers to purposely design and implement lessons for students to share and to develop those students' understandings. The main thing is engaging all students in academic talk, whether in a physical classroom setting or by remote learning. And it's not easy, nor is it automatic. Through these resources and ideas, consider structures and teacher moves that will guide equitable classroom conversations, like shown here, to support the surfacing of student thinking and sense-making by all students. Here are those resources and some links. The STEM teaching tools, lots of great links there. The Turk Talk Moves. Exploratorium out of San Francisco Science Museum there has some great resources on science talk. These books that are available for purchase. Some great resources from some professional organizations. I want to thank you for participating with this session and hope the rest of your sessions go well and that you have a great school year. Thank you.